You are the only one on this channel at the moment, and as such, currently we do not have a tactical resolution until more TPAC units come down. Over.
But Peter Bleksley said even more serious crimes are going unchecked in the centre of Britain's cities.
With the ongoing economic, social and moral decline that has gripped this nation, I don't see these figures getting better anytime soon.
Peter Bleksley, the roll call of shame: Birmingham, Doncaster, Leicester, Newcastle, Brighton Beach. So not just inner cities, but opportunist criminals going from outside the areas into where people are to coat them off, to mug them perhaps in the day, for example, in places like Brighton.
Yes, and these are predominantly crimes of violence and sexual offences that have been recorded on this interactive map. It doesn't go into the theft, the burglary, the car crime, all of which are rampant in so many areas of the UK, which, when we get the latest stats, and they're regularly published, we will see there is a rise in crime, there is a drop in convictions, and quite simply that translates to criminals are getting away with it. There used to be an expression that I was raised with, that crime doesn't pay. But sadly, in this day and age in the United Kingdom, it very much does. And until our police services abandon the wokery, the liberal leanings, the fluffiness of the last couple of decades that have gripped their corridors of power, until we get a police service that actually reconnects with the public and does what the public wants, not what little vocal specialised interest groups force them into doing, but does what the broad, moderate mainstream of Britain, your listeners, your viewers, people that I interact with on a daily basis, until we get a police service providing this, then quite sadly, the subject, the matter, the situation is simply going to get worse.
Peter, I fear you're correct. Birmingham, New Street, also Newcastle city centre, big train stations, Manchester, Middlesbrough, Riverside Stadium, Liverpool, Lime Street Station, the place where people commute to, the places where they are heading to, they're becoming victims of crime at them simply to go about their regular daily business.
The police have been handed new powers to deal with phone theft. It remains to be seen whether the plan will work.
It is an absolutely ginormous legislative bill, the biggest in decades. And of course, that means that potentially it could be bogged down in the parliamentary process. So it could be quite a few months before we get anywhere near this actually becoming law. But the government sees this as being about going after the kind of crimes that blight society in town centres. So your street thefts, shoplifting, antisocial behaviour, knife crime and alike. And one of the sort of changes that I think has got a bit of attention today is this issue over not needing a warrant to go knocking down doors and recovering the likes of mobile phones. I should say it's not just mobile phones, it's anything that might be electronically tagged, like a laptop, bikes, even vehicles.
Just explain something on that, Mark.
Yeah.
People might think, great, that sounds great. Mobile phones are very expensive and it's hugely disruptive if you lose your phone. If the the thief, turns it off,
they can't find it.
Can the police pursue the phone into somebody's home?
Drat. Never thought of that.
It's extraordinary, isn't
well,
it?
this is it. You won't take
these burglars and these.
They'll always be one.
They are pretty stupid, but even those scroats are, they get it after a while that they need to switch the mobile phone off immediately, and that's what they'll start doing.
Yeah, of course.
So,
and none of this works unless there are coppers on the beat around anyway. When you say my phone's been nicked. Are there more coppers on the beat?
Listen, I think the bigger issue is, despite what sounds like a shiny new bit of legislation that people go, oh, that's great, I can find my phone and I'll get it back. No. 50% of phone thefts reported to the Metropolitan Police go uninvestigated. Yeah. The police are just answering back-to-back calls anyway. They're not going to prioritise someone's mobile phone theft, even if they now have the power to go to someone's house if a caller says, I've got it at 22 Acacia Avenue. Well, I'm sorry, I'm off to a 999 call with a guy with a knife who's threatening his neighbours.
Do you know what I think is more likely after this? I think this is really flawed, this bill, and like you say, it's got a few stages to go through. What will happen now is people will see, if the thief is stupid enough to leave the phone switched on, and you press your app that will say find my phone, and you say it is at Acacia Avenue, I think the British public are more likely to now go and knock on the door and push the door down and do more vigilantism, because they'll say, well, hang on a minute, the police don't need a warrant. Why don't I need a warrant? If the police don't need a warrant, I don't need a warrant. So I think you're going to get more trouble.
Well, you've got members of the public who are doing that anyway, deeply frustrated that the police are just not responsive to what are being seen as lower-level crimes or less important crimes for the police to investigate, and they're going off and they're trying to recover their property themselves. I think the difficulty going forward, it's all right coming away with new legislation which says we're going to empower them to go after stolen mobile phones or to tackle the likes of shoplifting now. For instance, this rule that was in place saying anything under £200 wouldn't get investigated. Now, whatever you steal should, in theory, be investigated. But when you've got the police doing back-to-back calls, they're going to prioritise, and the priorities, by and large, will always be towards the most serious